Watching see
That's why I turned
She
it on.
heard you.
It hurt me.
Okay.
You gonna let me know when to begin? I understand the recording has started, but do you want me to begin yet?
Probably.
We are just still getting settled in here. If you can give us a couple more minutes.
Okay, just wanted to know. I hadn't gotten anything back, feedback.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, Robert, I think we're all set here. Thank you.
All righty, well, I'm excited. I put myself in a picture of Coeur d'Alene so I could feel like I was there with the rest of you, because I know I'm the outsider and everybody else is there. So anyway, I'm excited to be there. We did this a year ago. And so what I did is I looked at last year's presentation and put everything into this one that I have added since then. So what we're going to do is learn about what's new at FamilySearch. And we're going to be talking about new features that were added and some things that have been updated. And I kind of take this idea of what's new kind of loosely. If I've seen something that I've never seen before, I consider that new. And I figure if I've never seen it before, many of you haven't either. So there may be actually some things that aren't really new, but they are new as far as I know. Okay, one of the first things I wanted to bring up real quick was the fact that FamilySearch is changing their support model, if you haven't already discovered that. In May, they turned to a new interactive experience for support, mainly for two things. A, it's costing a lot of money to run the phone system that they've used in the past. And secondly, there's just not a lot of missionaries out there. We need more senior missionaries that are interested in family history, and it's becoming harder and harder to man the phones and provide the service that they have in the past. And so they're trying to turn basically to the community. And this has been kind of a rough road to hoe. Back in May, they introduced a whole new contact system. And this is what contact looks like. If you go to the home page, go to the question mark to contact us. This is the page that'll come up. They have the different regions of the world up there, and every region has a different way to be contacted now. Used to be one size fits all. Now they're doing things that work for different parts of the world, which I think is a great improvement. The big thing is they really would like to replace chats and emails with contact the community, meaning the community at FamilySearch. So they have a link right there for all regions to do that. Many of their questions have to do with how to get started. So they put get started in there so that people maybe will go there instead of going and asking questions about how to get started. And they also provide the link for the 20-minute consultations at the library in Salt Lake, the people from the library there. And so that's available for all. So what they did for North America, which is what most of us are in, I would assume, is initially they cut back live phone calls and said you couldn't make live phone calls on weekends, Saturday and Sunday, and then eventually expanded that to all week. And you had to schedule an appointment to have a Google Meet consultation with a missionary for 20 minutes. And you can do that in English and Spanish, and that's still available. What happened is all heck broke loose, and they had a lot of people complaining. And so for now, you can still make live phone calls. And so they've gone back to the live phone call thing. Now the times are Utah times, because everything's, of course, based on Utah for FamilySearch. But you can make those calls now. I don't expect that to last very long. I have a feeling they're going to move us back to just the Google Meets and going to the community. But for now, because they had so many complaints, they've done that. It is interesting. In other parts of the world, they're using WhatsApp and other ways of getting a hold of people, because in different parts of the world, they have different technological tools and abilities. And so it's really interesting to see that they are trying to move to a system that works better for more people around the world. Okay, one of the big things that came out way early in the year, so it's been around for a while now, is a new FamilySearch homepage. And I'm really grateful that they didn't just force it on us, they're letting us try it out. So if you haven't seen it, when you're on the homepage, you'll see a little link there that says, try the homepage, new homepage features. And when you do that, you get this new homepage, which looks actually very similar to the old homepage, but there are many different things. The left column provides you with what you've been doing and tells you, you know, how many people you've added and how many sources and things like that for this year. And then there's also a feature for friends, because the middle column, which used to have just this one featured link, and then would have a lot of posts of memories that were attached to your relatives, now has become a place that you can use to communicate with your friends. And so you need to be able to develop friends. So down here is a place where you can start inviting friends to share your new homepage with. Doesn't work on the old one. They have to be able to use the new homepage also. But it has a place here where you can have almost like private conversations with people that are in your list of friends. And once you've invited people to friends, you have a master list of all of them. You also have down here a place where you can make sub lists. So like if you wanted to invite some friends that you know research a certain family line, you could have your own little group of friends communicating with each other using this middle column to do your collaborative research on a certain family. And so that's kind of cool that they've opened it up to that. And then they also provide a link here for family groups. So you have a second way to get to your formal family groups. This other arrangement that I'm talking about with friends and lists is kind of an informal setup that works on this middle column. Then the right-hand column is still pretty much the same as it's always been. It has the recommended tasks and recent people and things like that, so that you can get to either some things to work on or back to where you were before, just like you've always had. Now, in addition, more recently this year, they've also updated the person page for people. And you'll know you're on the new one if it has the blue banner across the top. And again, it has the little try the new person page link here that you can turn off and turn on. I really like this new person page for the most part. One of the things I like is that it has the ability to take all those vitals and family members and other names and things like that and put them in multiple columns instead of one big long column. And so like here for vitals, you can have it in a nice little box now so that it doesn't have to go way down the page. Has all the same features, everything's the same there. It's just that you now have it in a more compact form. They've also kept the things that were on the right-hand side pretty much the same. They did condensing at the bottom of that column. We don't have time. We could do a whole lesson on this. There is one feature that is brand new. And one other thing, they moved the life sketch to the very bottom. And I'll talk about how you can get it back up to the top if you want, but they've added a thing called other relationships, which I think is interesting. There's kind of relationships that aren't familial, direct familial relationships that you might want to show in FamilySearch. And so they have finally set up something so that you can do that. So under other relationships, if you click that add other, you can now attach a person who was the person, one of your relatives was apprenticed to, or somebody who they worked for, or a godparent, or you can connect people that lived in the household, but you don't know how they're related or if they're related. You can even connect a person to their neighbors on a census, let's say, so that if you're doing, crowd research, you'd be able to have these people connected physically. You could connect people that you know are a relative, but you're not sure how yet, to your person. And if they were a slave, you could actually connect them to the slave owner if you wanted to. So there's some real neat things that you can do. When you pick one of these, then you add the person out of FamilySearch to them, and they will show up in these other relationships. It won't mess up your pedigree chart or anything like that. Okay, and then once they put all this together, they realize some people aren't going to like the way it's ordered or organized. And so when you go over to the tools in the right-hand column, there's a little tab there that says My Layout Settings. And when you click on that, you can move the individual pieces like other relationships, life sketch, vitals, other names, and stuff like that around on the page and put them in the order that you want them to be. It only will affect your view, but it'll make the view fit to whatever you want. Okay, sign-ins, they've been changing that, and they don't really announce all these things. I just stumbled across the fact that they've changed what happens if you're having trouble signing in. If you're a public member, not a member of the church that has an LDS account, but a public member of FamilySearch, you're going to be locked out if you don't sign in correctly for just 10 minutes now. And you get 5 chances. Instead of 3 chances and you're out, it's 5 chances for the public. For people that have a FamilySearch member account, it locks up for 30 minutes after 6 failed attempts. So instead of 3 times and out, now you get 6 tries. Why they're different, I have no idea. Why the time periods are different, I have no idea. And one thing that is nice, since back in February when they separated for members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, their FamilySearch account and their Church of Jesus Christ account, you now have two ways to get in. So if you lock yourself out with your FamilySearch account, just go over to the Church of Jesus Christ account that you have, use that username and password, and you can get in too. So there's two different ways to get in for LDS people. And all of us have more chances to get it right before they lock us out. Another thing on sign-ins that popped up recently is the fact that they now have the ability for people to sign in using Facebook. You see this on a lot of sites where they'll say sign in using Facebook or sign in using Google. Or right now, FamilySearch has sign in using Facebook. I tried it and I got the little message at the bottom of the screen there that this feature is only available for new accounts right now. But over time, they plan to add this to everybody's. I think what they're after is they're sick and tired of helping us with our username and password problems. So people that have Facebook, once you link Facebook up to your FamilySearch account, you just say connect with Facebook, your computer knows your Facebook username and password, and you get in and they don't have to deal with you anymore on your login issues. I think that's what that's really all about. Okay, now, indexing has disappeared off the home page or off the top of the page in FamilySearch. That doesn't mean it went away. It's just been re-imaged as get involved because they are kind of moving away from the traditional indexing for a lot of their record groups, and they're creating what they call reviewing, which allows artificial intelligence to read over documents, pull out the important information that FamilySearch is after, and then they ask us as the reviewers to check the names. And if the names are okay and approved, that record immediately gets put online to be searchable. And the artificial intelligence is doing the majority of the work, pulling off all the other information, because quite frankly, most of our records are in a form. Even if they're handwritten, they have a set form to them, and the computer can be taught to find within this mass of words the things that it needs for whatever that record is. So if you click on My Opportunities now, you're going to see that you can still index if they have records available for indexing, and you can review names. And the review names really is very easy. If you haven't tried this, you ought to go in there and try it. You're going to see a document like that person has on their phone, and they're going to highlight what they think are names, and you're either going to approve it, or you can click edit and change. They're going to say, this is Juan, and if it's not Juan, you can click change it, put the right name in there, and then save it, or you can skip it because you can't understand it. And the thing that's nice with this is you don't have batches anymore. You don't have any restrictions to how much you can do. You can do 1, 2, 3 names and then quit, and those will be automatically uploaded if you finished them. There's no names held that you can do within 10 days because you don't have batches. You just work when you want to, you work as long as you want to, and you quit when you feel like quitting. And so it's really a neat feature. If you go over to review names, you'll be able to try that out. Okay, they've done a lot with their searching features. They're trying to make everything the same, pretty much the same, so they all work alike. And so to find people in Tree, they have changed this feature over. This new version is really nice because we always have had an issue in the past with you put in a search for somebody and you get too much. And there was no way to limit that too much to where you could get what you really wanted in a very easy manner. So I want to show you what you can do now, which is, I think, really a big advancement. The first thing is you can click on more options and you see all the options. This is pretty much the way it was before. You can turn off and on the little boxes that are there for exact searches. but you do have the feature to be able to, or the ability to put in all those alternative things. Now, when you get the results, you can also do some changing. Now, I did a search for my great-grandfather, Henry Harrison Sands, and I put he lived in Pennsylvania. Whoops. Skip back there. And that he lived between about 1840 and 1920. Okay, I got some 1,200 plus results. That's typical. So how do we reduce that? Real simple. We start using the filters, because when we use the filters, we can cut down on the number of results. And so what I did is I picked death, and you can see it's death right here. I said, let's focus on his death, because I'm pretty sure he died, I think, in 1915. So I picked death, and then I said, okay, he died in the United States. And then they gave me a list of all the states, and I said, well, I'm pretty sure he died in Pennsylvania. So I clicked Pennsylvania, and then I clicked Columbia County, because I was pretty sure that's where he died. That brought those 1,200 results down to 57. And when I did that, here's Henry Harrison Sands right at the top of the list. He didn't get there magically. He got there because I reduced this 1,200 name list down to 57 using the filters here. And this is what they're there for. If that hadn't worked, I might have tried, if I knew the year he married, I might have tried, I might have tried Wood County, Ohio, because that's where he married. Now, of course, the problem is when you're looking for somebody, you have information about the person. You don't know what that person has on their record. So you have to try different things, but this will allow you to do some playing around if you're having trouble finding somebody, and try to come up with your person using different filters. Okay, so this was a nice improvement. I really think this is nice of FamilySearch. Now, another one that's really cool is when you go over to books. In the search menu, there's books. FamilySearch has hundreds of thousands of books now that have been digitized for us to look at. And in the past, you put a search in and they'll just pull up books, and then you have to kind of see what's going on, maybe get the book to upload and then do a Control F search and stuff like that. Well, FamilySearch has now instituted what they call full text results. This is what happens when you go to Google Books, you go to Internet Archives, and you do a search, and they show you little snippets from the book. So you can see exactly what's in the book for where those terms are that you're searching for. This is a major improvement. And so you put your search terms in, like I put in Henry Harrison Sands, and I put the word Mordansville, because that's a town that he lived in. And then I did search. Now, I can get my results in a long list like we've always had, or we can have it in a grid view. I don't like the grid view too much. I much prefer the list. Once I have that list, I can also go and filter these, all these results by creator. I think that's author, in other words, equivalent to author, or a subject, or a language, or an owning institution, or one that's really good is access level. I get so frustrated when I have to look at all these books that say restricted, you can't look at this book. It's like holding candy out in front of you and saying you can't touch it. Well, I can remove those if I want, and just say I want to have ones that have full permission or public access so that I can see them. But in any case, when I did this search, up came a result of the Lundy family. It is a full permission book, but I know right now that on view, on image 454, I'm going to find my Henry Harrison Sands, who was born in Mordansville and or lived in Mordansville, and 3 of his children were born there, 4 of his children. And so I know right now that's the exact place in that book that I want to go. And there were other results. That's just the first one that showed up there. But this is the kind of thing you will now start seeing when you search in books. It's really nice. Okay. Now, historical records, searching for historical records when you want to look at all the collections has changed a little too, using the same basic idea. So on the new search historical records page, you'll find down below, find a collection. You can just type in a collection name there, or you can just say, I want to browse all of them. So we'll try that now. And there's over 3,200 collections, actually. And when I did the image, it had 3,100. So they keep adding new collections all the time. Okay, you have a search box where you could type in, like you could say Arizona death records. And then it will bring up things that appear to fit that. What's nice is there's a little filter button. And when you click on that, this left or this right column shows up where you can filter to the type of record you're after. You can also pick a location if you need something a little more detailed, or a time period. And so these filters will all help reduce the number of things that come up as results for your search. And so they're trying to work to help you have an easier way to locate that collection that you want. Now you could just put in the word Arizona and then come over here and say, okay, I want to know just the probate and court records for Arizona, and that will filter out everything else. And then you could give it a time period, hopefully a time period more recent than the ones that you see on my little snippet, because Arizona records don't go back that far. But anyway, that's just showing you that this has also been improved. The source box has some filtering also. You have your search bar where you can search for a particular source that you put in there, but you also have filters. And the filters allow you to filter down to just records that were made in FamilySearch, or just records that were user created, or just records that are made from memories. Or you can set date ranges, and you can also set it for no dates. So if you want to go through and fix a lot of your sources and add the date field to the source, you can do that by lumping them all together. Or you can put in a date range and say, I only want sources that cover this time period. And so this is going to help you manage a little bit your source box, because the source box has become something that can be very unwieldy for a lot of people to work in. Okay, also in sourcing, I discovered this year that FamilySearch has done something that's kind of private idea that they haven't really shared with us very well, that they are physically going through sources, I assume, and looking for sources that appear to be marriage sources, and then automatically putting them on the couple relationship course. Because, you know, that's always been the hardest source for people to source, because to put a source in about a marriage, you have to go down to the family, click on the relationship, and then go to the sources there and physically add in that source, which is a kind of a pain. And so you may find now some of these, and there doesn't appear to be any specific rhyme or reason to it, you may find some sources that have been added into your couple relationships for you by FamilySearch. It'd be nice if they would do that for all marriage records, but at least they're trying to help us get the idea of what to do with them. Okay, I brought this up even though it's not part of FamilySearch directly. It's kind of a part of sourcing. BYU has what they call a map app. And essentially what that is, you will see the result of it over in Tree where it'll say for a source, it's a project that put this in. I can't remember the full title, but it's project, something or other project. And what they're doing is they're taking certain records that aren't fully sourced all the way through all the possible records in the collection and having people help fill them in regardless of whether you're related to the people or not. They started in the US with the 1910 census, trying to get all the people on the 1910 census into FamilySearch. And then they're now working, when I play around with it for the US, on the 1900 census. And so the instructions are on this first page when you first go to it. You can get there by this URL link, or just go to Google and type BYU Map App, and you'll get the link that'll take you to it. The initial page looks like this. You can put in a surname if you would like to add people with that surname, if they have any available. And then you can pick a location. And when I initially did this, they had Philadelphia, Pennsylvania available. And a lot of my sands were in Philadelphia, so I chose that. And you click search, and it comes up with this strange map. Now, the map has the ability to shrink or enlarge with the plus or minus, or I have a touch screen. I can just spread my fingers and make it larger, bring them together for smaller. If I mess up the view, I can click on this top circle and it'll take me back to this view. I can refresh this because you see each of those little symbols represents a hint that needs to be processed. There's a family on the in this case, it was 1910 census, living approximately at that location that needed to be processed. As I work my way down through these, they don't always disappear. So if you want to make sure you've only got current ones that can be done, you click on the refresh button, and the ones that you actually finished or other people finished disappear. And so you just click on these little circles. In this case, it was the Thomas family. I was looking for sands, but they didn't have any. That's okay. I click on it. It opens up Source Linker with the family, or what they think is the family. Now, I say that because there are times when they get families that have similar names, but they really aren't the same family. Because there is a family that has a record for Anita Smith, born in 1891, with just the parents' names, Fanny Smith and Alonzo Smith. Now, those are fairly unusual names, so it's possible that the census for Fanny and Alonzo with these children, including a Mary born about the right time, would be the person. Now, I'd be very suspicious of this family because the daughter's not correct. If this does not look good, you just skip it, go back and try a different one. Okay, use your ability to look at the records and say, yeah, I don't really think they're doing this right with this particular family. This one doesn't work. If it looks good, you go through and source it, and it's possible you're adding new people into tree. And that's what they're trying to do, is to get all these families, to get this family here into FamilySearch if it's not already there. So that's a nice little project. Okay, they did have a change in the 4-generation feature on FAR, on the Family History Activity Report. For those of you that are familiar with this, what they did is, in the past, to calculate this, the FamilySearch knows all the people that live in your unit of the church, and they know the specifics for the people who have actually ever signed in to FamilySearch. And they were giving people that had never signed in full credit for having a full 4-generation chart. And back in January, they decided that wasn't so good. And so the new number now represents the percent of the trees, 4-generation trees, for the people that actually have a FamilySearch account in your unit. And that caused everybody's numbers to drop way down. But that's because this is apples and oranges, not oranges and oranges. You got a whole different way of basing the count. So I just thought I'd throw that in since that happened this year. Okay, family groups have changed. They introduced family groups last year. Now they've been doing some tweaking. One thing is you can have a group of up to 1,000 people. So if you want to have a group for the entire ward in your LDS congregation, you could have one. You can have up to 1,000 people in the group. If you have temple ordinance names that are reserved and then shared inside the group, what happens with those now is that the names will, or the ordinances will just show in progress to the general users of FamilySearch. But the people within your group where it's shared will be able to go print the cards for these and work with them. But for everybody else, they'll be locked out. They are coming out with the ability, I think, eventually to show you like how much reviewing your group has done, things like that. And they are still working on trying to develop a single living record for each person within the group so that they can see each other as the same living records. They can put sources on them, or they can put memories on them that everybody in the group can see and things like that. That's still coming. It's not been canceled. It's just taking a heck of a lot of time to figure out because it is really a complex feature. Okay, and then also if you look at your groups in your temple list, if you're LDS, you'll now eventually see, you won't see it yet, it's still coming in the future. I'm surprised it hasn't shown up. Besides your reservations and your shared ones and those in your family groups, you're going to start to see the ward and stake reservations that have been shared. So if you wanted to do a person for somebody in your ward or stake, you could go there and pick one out. So there are some things coming. They just, for some reason, they're just really slow at bringing them in. Okay, the other thing is, used to be that like my father-in-law passed away and was not a member. If we wanted to do his temple work, we used to have to wait a year. It's now down to 30 days. And even less if the person was a worthy member of the church, had to recommend, but wasn't able physically to ever get to the temple. They could be done immediately after they die, have their temple ordinances done. Okay, another one is who we can do work for. That has been really tightened up. And it used to be that, you had the 110-year rule. You're not supposed to submit names for people inside 110 years unless you're an immediate family member. That's explained here. Or you had permission from the closest living family member, one of these close living family members. And then they had all kinds of exceptions. Well, they've done away with the exceptions. So now, if you want to do somebody born within the last 110 years, you either have to be that close relative, or you have to have written permission from the close relative, or you're going to wait until that person reaches 110 years of age with no exceptions. This is eliminating a lot of the hanky-panky that goes on of people trying to work their way around things and trying to say, well, I had this friend and so on and so forth. The rules just pretty much set now. What happened in the past isn't necessarily what's going to be what happens now if you try to do an end run around the rule. Okay, they've added a new pedigree chart called First Ancestor. For most of us, it doesn't matter. But for Chinese people, Korean people who have clans, this is what they need. And so it allows them to set up a first ancestor pedigree. And they can have multiple ones if they have several different lines that have first ancestors. And when you click on first ancestors, it's going to show you. And of course, I'm not really Asian, so I really don't have a first ancestor clan, but I can kind of demonstrate it. And so what I'll do is I'll create a clan for my Givenses going back to my first ancestor that I know of. So what you do is you click on that little arrow that's down there below your picture, where you could add a child, a spouse, or a parent, or now you can add a first ancestor. So I click on to add a first ancestor, and I put the ID in for my Samuel Givens, who was the furthest back ancestor I have on my Givens line, and click next. And what it does is it says, okay, is this the guy you want? And you say yes, and you click add match. And it creates a first ancestor chart. It's strictly a father to son to son to son to son to son to son down to you. That's what a first ancestor chart looks like. It doesn't allow you to branch out all the female lines and things like that. But I think this is really cool because this is the way Chinese and Korean and other Asian languages function when they have clans. And they've needed this for a long time. So this is a real nice improvement. Okay, the genealogy section is a place that you really ought to go look because they've been making some real nice changes. Now, all these bullet points are the different kinds of trees that you can see in genealogies. The pedigree resource file is still there. That's the place where you can download a GEDCOM that will be made into a tree that is preserved indefinitely without changes. That's still available there under pedigree resource file. You can see the old ancestral file. You can see the old IGI. Those are found there. These other things are cool. We have a bunch of partner sites that have trees, like American Ancestors, Root Finder, excuse me, My Trees, and Guild for One Name Studies that all have trees. And you can look at those trees and see if you can find ideas and hints for your family. Now, the top three are really neat. Oral genealogies is a place where the church has been going out into Africa and the Isles of the Pacific, Oceania, gathering oral lineages from people. They sit down and interview people. They have millions of these, literally. And they get the people's information and then they computerize it and turn them into little trees. And you can hear the original interview on, like on tape. And so that's a big help for people with African heritage or that come out of the Isles of the Pacific. Now, there are computer-generated trees. They are taking specific locations around the world where there's a lot of, say, vital records or church records, and they're having computers using artificial intelligence read those records and compile these records into families and link those families in a physical tree that you can go look at. So you can look to see if they have a location that you research and then go into that tree and search for specific names. And these are, pretty good. They do have possible chances for some mistakes, but they're generally fairly accurate. They have a lot of disjointed little families because they can't fit them in with the others, but at least they've already found the records and who's on the records and put them together. The other one are community trees, and these are where there are projects going on where people are taking the records for specific towns and creating them into trees. And in these little towns in the 16, 17, even 1800s, everybody was related, and they're showing you how everybody's related in these specific towns. So these are some records that are fairly new to FamilySearch. They're not a part of tree. What they are hints and ideas for you of what you can do to enlarge what's in tree. So take a look at them. They've done a lot of work on these in the last couple of years. FamilySearch has always been criticized for not having a training program. Well, they still don't have their training program, but they did allow a third-party product, the Family History Guide, to be created. Family History Guide has what FamilySearch considers the best training program that there is out there for teaching people how to use FamilySearch. And so what they have done is they've gone over into the Help Center, down to Help Center, and they put a document in there, Family Tree Basics. This is a part of that article. And what it does is it gives you a whole course of study for how to learn to use Family Tree. This is actually the Family History Guides course for FamilySearch. But they put it over in FamilySearch so that maybe some people will pull it up. So if you run into people that are brand new to Tree and they need some help and they're willing to learn on their own, this is an excellent program. I know we have a class today on the Family History Guide. I'm sure this will be brought up. But you can go in there if they need help with how to merge records. Lesson 2 here, merging. Click on that, it'll walk you through the process. So this is a nice little extra feature. If you want to find the Hayden Family History Center or some other history center, now next to your name out to the left is a pin dropper, which is a location icon. You click on that and it's going to help you find the Family History Center. I wish they'd name it. Of course, if you click over it, it'll say find the Family History Center. You can actually locate the center by clicking there, but they also give you some things now to kind of give you a feel about why you would want to go to the Family History Center. Talk about the personalized help, access to technology, access to exclusive records and things like that, so that people get a feel for why they ought to come to the Family History Center. And you can use this to show people why they need to find a Family History Center near them. Okay, one last thing that you won't find anywhere, but I know about it partly because I know one of the managers that runs the catalog. Right now, the FamilySearch catalog has been locked. It's been locked since September. By locked, I mean they didn't take it offline because, goodness, we need a catalog. But there's no changes being done to it. They're not adding anything to it. They're not changing anything. They're not fixing anything. It's just sitting there static. You can use it, but nothing's changing. They are introducing a whole new, totally different catalog experience. And they hope it'll be out by the end of November. But until then, it won't do any good to contact them and say, hey, you know, that link's broken or that link doesn't take you to what it says. I mean, they'll log it in, but they aren't going to be doing any changes because they're trying to get this new catalog set up and working. But that will show up soon. Okay, one last little thing. I always somehow have to show a little something about MyHeritage. I just love their photo capabilities and the things they can do. They have been doing some really neat things with their photos. And so those of us that have a LDS linked account with MyHeritage can do these things to your heart's desire. Anybody in the public actually can do 10 photos. They allow you to do 10 just as a teaser, but they will take black and whites and colorize them. By enhancing photos, that means they will take the facial part of the photos and clean them up so they're sharper. They can even animate a photo, and now they have a feature called Deep Story. So I'd like to just walk you through that real quick. Here's a couple of photos. They're my two grandmothers, my mother's mother on the left, my dad's mother on the right, and a couple of photos I have. So this one is showing taking a black and white photo and turning it into a colorized photo. And then this is more of a close-up so that you can see it had like a big scratch down through here. They've really lightened that scratch. They've taken a lot of these bubbles and kind of blotted them out so the face looks a lot better. And they've added color. Their colorizing isn't the greatest, but hey, it's free. It's a lot cheaper than going to Adobe Acrobat or something like that. Adobe Photos, I should say. Now, the other thing they can do is they can take a photo and animate it. And they can do several routines. This is my mother. And this was a black and white photo of her at the age of 16. And they went and animated it, and they have it with her smiling. You can have different kinds of features, you know, frowning and laughing and things like that. but it really is cool. It's kind of freaky the first time you see it. But they went a little further than that. If you've ever gone and seen Meet Mr. Lincoln at Disneyland back in the old days, where they had the Lincoln statue and he started talking, or the Lincoln mannequin, whatever you want to call it. They've done the same thing. Now, this is my grandfather, who I never met because he died in 1925. He's going to tell
My
you
name
his
is Claude
story.
Irvin Hale. Let me tell you my life story. It all started when I was born on June 16, 1885, in York County. My father John M. Hale was born in 1856, in Abbottstown. My mother Mary Jane Bortner was born in 1857, in Seven Valleys. When they married in 1880, my mother was the same age as my father. I had 6 siblings: Edward, Minnie, Chauncey, Mabel, Lillian, and Paul. I took Helen Alcesta Sands to be my wife on January 9, 1915, at age 29 in Bloomsburg. She was born in 1887, in Mortonsville. She was 27 years old when we married, 2 years younger than me. We had one daughter. Our daughter Jenny was born in 1917. She married Joseph James Givens in 1942, in Silver City. Then, I married Carrie S. Lutz on June 1, 1918, at age 32 in Philadelphia. She was born in 1887, in Lancaster. She was 31 years old when we married, 1 year younger than me. Helen and I had 2 wonderful grandsons, James and Robert. I'm glad I could share my life story with you. I hope you enjoyed watching. Goodbye.
Now, isn't that cool? And this is all done using artificial intelligence. You set up the pictures and the dialogue, and then they put it to the face and make the face talk. It's just really a neat feature.
Well, we need to wrap up. We appreciate.
Yeah,
your
and I'm done. How's that for timing?
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very good.
That was awesome.
Your next class, let me know, or Bob is teaching again here in.
Okay.
Just make it a little bigger. How's my cord up there? Do I have room to pull towards me more?
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Do you have any handouts on this?
Not that I know of. I just saw.
Is this gonna be
Yes,
online?
they do.
Is there
Because
one
all
online?
of that, all of those slides, when you go on to where you register
Yep,
online,
that's all there.
there's links
Yep,
to
all
this
there.
whole slide
Oh,
presentation.
wonder.
Is this gonna be online so we can review it later?
Yes, it's online.
Yes.
Yes.
It's online.
Yes.
Do I record it again or just that one recording?
Yep. So stop it.
Okay.
And then,
Or do I pause it?
I wonder, because you.
You want it to be
know, I
full
put
one?
This is
time
gonna
on
make
it.
it really long.
Yeah, so let's stop it and then Bob will get back.